think there might be a
Oh, here, there's a letter. I think you're going to
I hear you're coming home. And we had a nice
There's a
conversation.
lever on the left side.
She's calling me from Italy.
Well, that's much better.
That was on her cell phone.
Yeah, well, you did a great job. I saw you in the paper.
Kid at the dining
Awards a few
table.
times.
Yeah.
I know.
All good. I'm enjoying myself.
Yeah, last person just walked in the door, so we're good to go.
Jobs where we're going to go. It's horrible. And I thought 1 year.
Hi, Randy.
1 year.
Yes, it is.
Well, that's what I kept telling myself
We not
1
only
year.
have
And then
planning commission stuff,
Anyway,
we
they
all have
hired
subcommittees for that.
another person to do essentially
It has been intense the
they
last
had
couple of
promised me that I would work into.
You guys are working on your strategic plan right now.
on the comprehensive. Yeah.
Hey, Brandy.
Morning, George. And Randy.
Are you by yourself?
No, not yet. I mean, not yet right now, but
Okay.
There's a demo for
Okay.
Yeah, that's true. See how it goes.
All right. That's
Recording in progress.
okay. Oops. We ready? Okay. All right. Welcome, everyone, to the Historic Preservation Architectural Review Commission, Thursday, July 14th, 6 o'clock meeting. This meeting is a week later than usual because of the 4th of July and some scheduling conflicts with some of the commissioners. I'm sure you didn't mind that we didn't have it last week. Ooh, bless you. Goodness.
Thank you.
Okay. I've got a few announcements. I'm going to once again introduce John Robitaille, who is our new building official. He's been here now 4 months, 3 months, 3, 4. Okay, and he's doing a lot of the commercial work and also involved with Joe and Janelle. They're sort of a team, a three-person team. Also, I want to introduce a new commissioner who we have here. It's Melanie Moser, and she is a member of the Planning Commission, and she is taking over Joe's spot, who was also on the Planning Commission. According to our guidelines, we have a voting representative of the Planning Commission as part of our group. So, welcome.
Thank you.
And also, I wanted to thank Joe Hawker, who is still on the Planning Commission, and he's actually going to continue as the Planning Commission's representative on our ad hoc committee. But he helped us out a lot. He contributed a lot, and if you're listening, Joe, thank you very much. Also, want to thank Phil, this is his last meeting. He's retiring from our commission, and he has certainly done a lot, raised the bar quite a bit. It's the first time we've had a registered, he's retired now, but a registered architect on the Planning Commission. And I think it's been a real asset. I think, Phil has given us a lot and kept us out of trouble frequently. Let's see. So, again, Phil, thank you very much. Hope you'll come visit. And
I will.
good. And I'm also asked Phil if I could call upon him to be on some of our committees from time to time, which he very kindly agreed to. I think that's it. Have I missed it? Oh, Candace, I'm sorry. Oh, and we have a new ex officio from City Council. And Candace, do you want anything, you want to say anything, or?
Pleased to be here.
Oh, good, okay. So we're very happy to have you here as well. Did I miss anybody else? No? Okay. All right. We're going to move on to the minutes. Does anybody have any comments? Any questions, concerns, or comments about the minutes? Corrections? Nothing?
Motion to accept.
Okay.
Second.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone?
I wasn't here.
Oh, you weren't here, so you're going to abstain.
Not for
Okay.
that meeting. so.
Okay, all right, very good. All right, so it's passed, the minutes are passed. So then we're going to move into our first applicant, which is presentation and discussion and possible action on H1322 on behalf of Carol Decatur and Michael Decatur. Renovations for the exterior of an existing non-contributing house for replacement of siding, roofing, windows, and the addition of a roof over the front door. The property is located at 34 Shipcarpenters Square, Sussex County Tax Map 335-8.07-323.00R4H. And Michael, I saw you come in. Oh, there you are. Thank you. Okay, well, welcome.
Oh, well, thank you.
And you've
Good evening.
been using a lot of printing, copy paper.
Well, I think that was something that was a requirement, so I'm trying to fulfill the criteria that you've set for us.
Okay.
Well, you filled it all right.
Well, thank you for your time. So my name is Michael Decatur. I reside over at 34 Shipcarpenters Square, not too far away. I'm with my mother. This is our family house. We've been coming to Lewis since about 1969. My father was a Washingtonian. We ended up buying the property back in 1992. Prior to that, we rented little properties down in South Bethany and Rehoboth, and then decided that Lewis was really the best place for us to be. We really enjoyed the town, and so we purchased the lot back in '92. Had a condo down at Ocean House for about 10. Let's see, we bought that in '93. I just sold it last year, and now what we've decided to do is renovate the house that we built in 2002. It obviously has original style wood structure, so it's a cedar shake roof with cedar clapboard siding with steel cut nails and original style wood windows. And because of the rather harsh environment that we've been seeing more of late with the hot sun and whatnot, this structure we thought would last more than 20 years and actually it's been deteriorating, and so it's actually been in need of repair probably since at least 5 years ago or so. So what we'd like to do is pursue a course that our neighbors on either side of us have pursued, and they have decided to go with a standing metal seam roof on both sides of our house, on the north side and the south side. And on the south side, the resident ended up using Anderson 400E series aluminum clad windows, and he used the smooth side Hardy plank board as well, which we would like to do as well. So the rhythm and the feel of the house will look the same. It's just going to have a little more longevity in terms of overall maintenance and durability.
That's it? Pretty simple.
I mean, I can pursue more if you'd like to go through the packet or answer questions.
Well, why don't we, I think your packet was very extensive. I thank you for that very much.
Thank you.
And also like the additional photographs, which I hadn't seen, of what the original structure looked like.
Yes, exactly. So at the
And I
time
mean,
we had
yeah.
a pre-meeting to this meeting, and we were in discussion about what course of action would be best to take. And there was information that I did not have at my fingertips at the time, and so I went back through our photo archives and ended up pulling up a number of photographs when my parents found the house that we initially decided upon and eventually used, which was over in Harbison, and we had a whole series of photographs taken there. They're not the best photographs, unfortunately, because my mother used a little point-and-shoot camera, so the exposures are a little bit dark. But it's very clear in this house. What occurred was our house is actually more of a reproduction of an original house than an original house. So with this, my friend who was the architect for this property, he was able to go out, look at the house, and there was enough standing there, and there was a gable end that was up, so he could sit there and take all the dimensions. He could see where windows were located and get the general sort of feel of the house, which was good. And then what happened was, when they actually ended up moving the house, much of the house was not used, and none of the house was used in the exterior. So all of the boards that were on the floor or on the ceiling in the original house, we ended up using them on the interior. Some of the exposed beams, so you have sort of a drywall with a beam and a ceiling, which used to be the floor, which is now the ceiling. Some of the mantles in the house were reused. Some of the interior trim bits were used. But the rest of the house essentially was a reproduction of this house. All the framing, all the windows, all the siding, everything was brand new back in 2002 when we commenced.
Okay.
And the other thing is, with the original house, which I could not answer at the time, is the original structure is the two-story structure. The front of the house, which is the one-story structure where our parlors, that's actually an add-on. That's part of the new modern part of the house.
Oh, really?
Yes. So one of the discussions that we had when John and Joe came out to sort of do a little inspection on some of the windows or whatnot, we were trying to figure out how we would integrate. If we were to replace just the cedar on the double part, the double-story part, how would we integrate that with the front with it sort of looking correct? And we couldn't really come to any kind of successful conclusion on that. So what we decided to do is we'll just do the hardy board and do the metal standing seam like our neighbors did and pursue the windows like our neighbors did. And the house will look beautiful and we'll keep the rhythm of the rest of the street.
So, okay, so the face of the one-story and two-story are just continuous, right? There's no definition between the two.
Correct, right. It's one face.
And you probably didn't have that original front door with the windows, the glass surrounds either. That seems a little,
Actually, I do have a
Ornate.
photograph of the door that they brought. I can show you that, actually.
I mean, there's a photograph we don't
I
have?
have a photograph. When they brought the house and put it up on jacks, there was a picture. It doesn't have a lot of detail because it was snowing that day, but this is what they brought. So they were able to use the dimensions, I believe, from that photograph.
Really?
And then probably, I mean, I know that the door is a fir door, it's a new door, all the transom lights are all new, they're all that sort of modern double pane and, with insulated glass and whatnot. But the feel of it is the spirit of what was there. And I think this house is really living more of a spirit than it is in a true authenticity. This is the actual wood that we actually, were able to bring over.
Did I read somewhere that you're just cleaning up the windows, or are you replacing
So what
them?
ended up happening is, so I have a little carriage house in the back, which is also, so my house is already, the house itself and the garage is a mixture between cedar shake on the house and standing metal seam on the house, and the garage is standing metal seam. So what I ended up doing was I painted the windows in the back because they had deteriorated that were on the garage, and I need to sort of scrape them and clean them up. But right now, I'm not doing anything with the structure in the back.
Right.
We're just talking about the house.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So, does anyone have any questions? Anybody want to start?
I just wanted to comment, the house is a dark house, dark brown, and the roof is cedar, but it's going to be completely different. It's going to be gray, light gray, and it's not going to be as if it were historically preserved.
The comment that I can make to that is when I had submitted, so I have an architectural review committee in my neighborhood that I have to meet the criteria for as well, of which they've approved this project.
Yes,
When I
read
went to
that.
them and I said, you tell me what colors you would like to see on this house, and they recommended that I do a neutral gray color. So they picked it, I didn't. Because I wanted this to work for my neighborhood as well, because they obviously had a concern similar to yours, and I said, okay, I'll make the color what you would like it to be.
That was after you told them that you wanted to use the hardy board.
Yeah, well, they knew that because when I submitted the proposal,
Right.
they knew where I wanted to go, and then originally I wanted to come out with I was going to use a different color, but they didn't want me to use a blue, and they said we would really prefer you to use a more neutral color.
Well,
Okay,
yeah.
what colors would you like? And they gave me a whole list of colors, and I just picked one of the colors
Right,
they
yeah.
recommended.
But I think what the point Phil's trying to make is, following our guidelines, which we talked about before, is that we like to, our guidelines encourage identifying the original historic structure separate from additions that are added on or modifications that are done later, and also following the original wood materials that would have been, on the original structure. So I think that's what Phil's alluding
That's
to.
what I was getting
Well,
at.
having said that, I believe I have the correct house. 38 Shipcarpenters Square, I think went through renovations, it's probably more than 5 years ago, but it seems, let's call it 5 years ago, probably more. And the color, that house was very dark before the renovations. And if I've got the right picture here, with the metal roof, and it went to a green with a red door. So that, in keeping with our consistency, I think, in my opinion, the colors that you've chosen are fine.
Oh, yeah, I don't think we're really questioning colors. We're questioning material and approach, because in the historic district,
Right.
Our guidelines follow, if wood was the original material,
Oh,
follow that.
I thought we were talking about color.
No.
Okay, never mind. Never mind, sorry.
We are and we aren't. But, I mean, so Shipcarpenters Square has their own review committee, and that's what you're referring to. And I'm just taking it back to what our guidelines charge us to follow or be considerate of. And that's that the historic structure, the original historic structure on the site is maintained the same way it was, and either refurbished or replaced or whatever. And so in that case, the original structure, you're changing it completely, and now the whole building is going to be, all the buildings are going to be one material, one color, and it will no longer have that look of a historic structure with additions and modifications, which happen over time in a historic town. And that's happened to several of the structures. Your
Well,
neighbors.
my immediate neighbor has that.
That's
It's the original
exactly
Dunbar
right.
house. Because I look out my kitchen window, and he has all standing metal seam roof. Didn't have it before. He's got all smooth hardy board planking all the way around the house.
Yeah.
The front door is not wood. He added a little shed roof for the front to protect it, like I would do, because the weather has rotted out the sill of my door. And he's used Anderson 400 series aluminum clad windows.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at him going, all right, I want to do what he did. And I look at the other way, and he's done the same thing.
I know.
And then the other house on the other side did the same thing. So I'm thinking, well, okay, can I pursue this course of action? I think it's a reasonable pursuit at this point.
Yeah, and all 3 or 4 of those houses now look like they're no longer historic houses that evolved over time, and they could be anywhere.
And my purpose of noting the color change, it's dramatic. I mean, I even wondered if you realize how dramatic it's going to be. It's not an old historic house anymore.
Yeah. Let's jump around. Anybody else have any comments? Bill?
I'd like to make a
I see you
couple.
nodding.
Yeah. This front overhang that we're proposing to add, I was looking at here on your drawing here. It doesn't have a page number. I was
Here,
looking for it.
right
Yeah, it doesn't have a page number.
Bill,
It's
here's
a
a
drawing
sketch.
number.
Yeah, but it just looks a little too contemporary to me. That's my thinking. It doesn't fit in with the rhythm and scale of the houses along there. It's metal there? Is that metal?
Well, it would be, we were looking
That's
at
a
something
side.
that would be a simple solution to keep water off of the wood of the front door.
Yeah.
Because it's rotted out the sill, and so I was kind of amazed. I remember when I spoke with my friend who's the architect for the house, why he didn't do that originally, and I think there was a conversation about it, because this house originally had a porch on it, and in the pictures way in the back that I have, it
Yeah.
shows where the water line is. You can clearly see that there was a porch on there. The issue with it was that my father didn't want to put a porch on it because it would ruin the light in the front rooms. And because of your setback rules, I couldn't put a front porch on it. That was the size of the original house anyway. So what we're doing is we're trying to find some sort of a compromise here. Now, it could, if you look at 36 Shipcarpenters Square, which is the house which is right next to me, with that they ended up putting on a little shed roof,
Yeah.
and I could do that because I have a brick area and little steps or whatnot. I think it would be perfectly lovely, and I'm
Your
perfectly
comments are
willing to pursue
coming
that.
right at me, because that's
I would
exactly
love
what I
that.
was thinking.
I think it would be great.
Yeah.
I had originally suggested that
just
to
me,
my
though.
architect.
That's just me, but that's what I was thinking, too.
So
Yeah.
what is the, Janelle, what is this, why couldn't he put a front porch across? I thought porches could go into the setback.
So front porches can encroach into the setback by a certain amount. It depends on where the house already is and where the porch ends up going. Again, I don't know where the survey is. Depends on the size of the porch. That would then could potentially impact the front yard setback. Because front porches are allowed to encroach 10 feet into the front yard setback, but without knowing where the setback line is, I can't say where.
What is the setback of Shipcarpenters Square, 4th Street?
Here,
Is that R2?
he's got this,
No, it's R4.
He's got it
So it's going to
marked.
be the existing building line, the established building line. Sorry, I always want to call it the wrong
I'm
one.
sorry.
So that porch could go into the front yard.
Yes, front porches can, for everywhere, can go into the front yard setback. Let me look.
Right, but the established building line is where the house is. So he can go 10 feet into that,
Yes.
based upon the survey that's here from.
Yeah, from 4th Street, it looks like he's on, I think we're on page 10 on the online packet. It looks like there's 16 feet for, just actually to a setback line, to the house setback line, and the house is actually 22.9 feet, based on the survey. I don't know how old, let me see if this has got a date on it. But yeah, a front porch can encroach 10 feet, so you've got plenty of room to add a front porch.
Okay, so I can't fully address the dimensions of the front porch. If you look sort of in the back of your booklet, the first
Yeah.
original picture of the house where I actually have the little notes, this 100 house, circa 1740. If you look at that, there was some sort of a shed roof there. I have no idea what the dimension was and how far out it was. And so, at the time, when my father was discussing the dimensions with my architect, I think they concluded that they were not going to do they didn't want that kind of lack of light. And
But
so
you're
they
willing-
just chose not to do it. But I'm willing to put, like, what my neighbor has done, a little shed.
Like a little portico.
I have no problem. Portico,
Yeah.
no problem.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. In fact, that was my preference. My architect sort of turned me down on that. I'm like, no, actually, I'd rather do it this way. But I'm like, okay.
Bring him up here, I'll talk to him.
No problem, no problem.
Okay.
That's good. I have just a couple more comments, if I
Okay,
may.
sure, go ahead.
On your trim around your windows,
Yes.
so I'm gonna get just looking at the front of the house, some of your trim really look bad, and from the drawings I saw. Are you gonna replace all that trim all the way around the house, or are you gonna replace the trim in the front, or talk to me a little bit about that?
All of that will be renewed.
You gonna put that in cedar?
It's going to be, what I would like to do is we're going to replace the windows because a lot of the sills in the windows are sort of beyond repair. And these were new windows back in 2002.
Are they gonna be inserts?
These are going to be, I'm not quite sure how it's going to work. The contractor came out, he's done most of the other houses in my neighborhood, and he said that what we're going to do is we'll come and take these windows out. The contention so much wasn't the outside, it was the inside. Do we have to take all the trim off in order to put the new windows in or not? He didn't know that at the time. But essentially, it would be, everything would be replaced, and it would have either the trim would be how they would trim it out with the hardy board on the outside of it. But it would all be renewed, so.
And going back on the clapboard and
Yeah.
around the house, I noticed those boards are just peeling off.
Absolutely.
And were they pine?
No, this was original cedar and they used regular straight cut nails on it, steel cut nails. And so, because I don't have a large maple tree in the front yard, I don't get any shade there, which was a
Yeah.
lot of the concern. And the other thing with the cedar is that, this is not old growth cedar from 200 years ago that has a lot of resin in it. This is sort of modern cedar where they grow it and it grows much faster. It doesn't have that kind of durability.
Yeah.
And so
I was just wondering
it started to
because-
cup and pull by 2013, 2014. We only got maybe 14 years out
Yeah,
of
you
it.
got cheated.
It's terrible.
I've got the clapboard in the front of mine, and it faces the sun just like yours does. Mine's cedar, that's why I was wondering.
Yeah, this is cedar too.
Yeah, it just didn't hold up.
Yeah. I wasn't around a lot when this house was being built because I was living up in New York. And so my parents kind of did this project, and I came down once or twice, but I was not very involved in it. And so I didn't really have any kind of say.
I come from where I'm thinking here. The hardy blanket is an approved material it's approved by us. But I looked at all the houses in the square. I just went around, looked at all of them. I counted those that had hardy board, those that had cedar, those with cedar shake. I just took a good look at the whole complex. Because I know the gentleman who put all the houses in there, and he's a good friend of mine.
Oh, okay.
And he's concerned about the changes that are being made in the square, that the changes are not reflective of the period that, when they put them in there and tried to restore them to that. And he's very concerned about that. And I told him I would certainly, look at that closely whenever I'm looking at a house that's in the square. And so I agree with the rest of the commissioners here that I think if there's some way that we could use the materials that are of that period, because it's a special place, Shipcarpenters Square. It's really special. And very few towns have been able to do anything like that, where you can move them in and set them up like that. So I'd ask that, think about that again, if you would. Instead of hardy plank, if you would go, you certainly can look at mine. Mine's on 2nd Street, and I've got cedar, and it's held up. I guess, I don't know, you just got some bad material maybe.
Well, I think maybe there's some other construction issues, the contractor, because you've got so much rot around your windows. There seems to be a
that's
lot
true,
of
too.
several things that, for 20 years old, you shouldn't have the conditions you have.
Well, yeah, it surprised me.
Yeah.
Because
so-
my cedar's 1999,
Uh-huh,
yeah.
3 years ago.
right.
So I couldn't find anywhere, you said you are going to replace all the trim, the window trim, the sash, that's going to have to be redone. I didn't see anywhere where you're telling us what it's going to look like. So we would need a submission on a drawing on telling us, make sure it's just not flat boards, it's appropriate for the style and the period of the house.
Okay.
Okay?
I second just what Barbara said, because that was my next question. What is this trim going to look like? The windows and the window trim on a house are so very important. And just for you to say, well, the contractor said he was going to do this, well, what is he going to do? Is he going to match historic trim, or is he just going to put up flat boards? Is it going to be an apron underneath the windowsill or not? We'd like to know that.
I believe so. The window, we were trying to replicate the look of it so that it was the same as what we have. It's just that the window would be an aluminoclad window instead of just a regular wood window. But the trim itself, if the trim itself needs to be
It just doesn't,
replicated,
it doesn't
I can
say.
replicate the
It
trim.
doesn't.
I don't really have an issue
There's no
with the trim.
notation about the trim at all. So at this point, we just don't know what you're planning.
Other than in the application checklist, you say that the trim is going to be wood, but then the submission by the contractor talks about solid PVC.
No, there's no PVC. There's no vinyl anywhere.
But the submission for the contract from One Call states solid PVC for trim, so.
Which is AZAC. AZAC
AZAC.
wood, it's a full composite, it's not vinyl, it's a full, dense composite material.
Right. He's aware of that because he knows that in my neighborhood, we're not allowed to use that.
Okay.
So
All right. Well,
we were clear on that. And he said, no, there's going to be no PVC in anything. So,
You've got a light fixture right now next to the front door. Are you replacing it, keeping it?
I'll just keep it.
Okay. All right. Would you like?
Yeah, I'd like to add a comment. Whenever I've passed the house, I always thought that the house was the old structure, and then the sort of additions in the back were new. And there was a signal to me because the siding went vertically instead of horizontally. Now, I don't know if that's actually the case. And then the other signal to me was the red roofs on the buildings in the back. And so it was a little disappointing to see everything with the same horizontal siding, with the same roof.
Well, the siding, the clapboard's all horizontal right now. There's no vertical anything.
Isn't one of the structures in the back have vertical?
Well, the carriage house does.
The carriage house.
The carriage house has board and batten style.
Okay. And there is red roof on that.
And there's a red roof on that as
Yeah.
well.
And that's new.
That was built in 2002.
Yeah.
Correct. But that's a new structure. That's a modern structure, so to speak.
But what I'm saying is that there's a signal there architecturally that says, I'm new, and this is the old one.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
and that's going to disappear when hardy plank goes on everything.
Well, I'm not doing the back, I'm not doing the garage in the back. That will be exactly the same. The reveal of 4 inches of the clapboard on the house is going to look exactly the same as it does now. It will be gray. That's the only difference.
But the original historic structure is just the front 2 sections, correct?
Right.
And so that's what she's talking about. She's talking about identifying, as I've said previously, our guidelines are to identify the original historic structure, and everything that's added to should be identifiable in materials, style,
Window details.
Right.
can be window details. And so you're no longer doing that. You're just making everything look like it all came in off the truck yesterday, all at one time. And that's not the history of that structure. That history has, time to it. And so our charge is to show that.
Right.
And even though the fact that it's a moved structure and the state hasn't in the past considered it contributing, it's contributing by date. And our guidelines refer to the date of the structures as contributing. And so in that case, we actually call out for the front of historic structures to be wood material, and then subsequent materials in the back can be changed to hardy.
So I'm just sort of curious, just a sidestep. So why wasn't this criteria applied to my neighbors then?
I do not know, but they did not come before HMARC, to my knowledge. They may have come before HPC, which was was how many years ago? I forget.
Well, for us to, if we were to do the cedar on the front of the house, we would have to probably, I don't think the house would look right unless we continued the whole front of it and the whole side of it. And of course, our concern there is, I don't have a big tree there, so I'm going to have this issue with it cupping and pulling and drying out again.
I
don't want to replace it again in 15 years. And this is a $200,000 project, and it's not in my budget to spend another $200,000 in 15 years.
I don't think it's going to happen, because I don't think it was done properly to begin with. I don't think you had a vapor barrier, I don't think you had anything, and I don't think you got real good cedar. There is good cedar around, and you have to find it, but it's out there. And if it's important, I mean, we have people in the audience that have used cedar on structures.
And you mentioned your architect. Can he provide or she provide a window detail that we can approve
yeah.
and
Of course.
vote on?
Yeah,
I can do that.
Okay. Michael, you haven't had a chance yet?
No, I just wanted to come back to the overhang as well. I mean, this is a federal-style house. According to the survey, originally it was constructed in 1740. You're proposing to use zinc, which was very, very commonly used beginning in this country in the early 1700s. I tend to agree with Bill, however, for this style house. If you were to use a gabled sort of roof, I think it would be, if you do some sort of historical research, it might be a bit more appropriate for what you're presenting here. The other issue, I think, is the fact that basically this structure, it's very, very unfortunate that after 21 years, it just sort of disintegrated. And I guess one of my questions is was that siding ever treated prior, or was just left natural? I know in Bill's case, and I know in my case as well, through proper priming and through routine maintenance, painting, that the natural siding does sort of hold up for many, many years. And and looking at this, it looks, at least to me anyway, it looks like it may not have had any sort of preservative or anything applied to the outside.
I can't answer that directly, but I think you're probably correct.
Yeah. So
just from the evidence of the
so,
condition that it's in.
But the materials you're proposing, the Anderson 400 windows, are things that we've approved in the past, and they're a very, very nice product. And I think that generally what you're proposing, you're not changing the overall shape of the structure, and it fits basically with the rhythm and scale, the height, and complies at least with our city code and certain aspects of the Secretary of the Interior standards, but not all of them. So that's about all I've got to say at this point.
George, you haven't spoken?
Yeah, I don't have too much to say other than I kind of like the gentleman's proposed. But it sounds like there's enough opinion on the commission to maybe recommend that this application be withdrawn, to come back next month with more detail.
I can do that.
Okay, I mean,
I mean, this is, I hope this is not going to be a 5-year process. You know,
well,
so,
no, it
it's,
shouldn't. It's just that
yeah.
we can't, when our
Right. I
guidelines,
understand.
charge us to
Right.
do one thing, and an applicant wants to do something
Right.
that's in sort of the reverse of it, or
Right.
in opposition to it, we can't really vote for it, so.
Just to put it out there, if we're going to sort of discontinue this, what if I were to do a standing metal seam on the parlor, which is the single floor part on the front, and I leave the cedar shake on the top of the house, which is the old structure, and then I do new windows all the way around with the aluminum clad windows, and then I do the rest of the house in cedar? Is that something?
Yeah,
That's
so
what
you're
you'll
going
have.
to do the whole face in cedar.
I'll do the entire house in cedar.
And the two sides.
Right. I'll spend another $300,000 doing it.
Okay. And then
It's sort of a-
and then you can do the metal on the lower one-story side, because that was
Because
added
that's
later.
a new part, right. So the old house.
And then you do cedar on the roof of the original, the two-story house, the faces worth.
Correct. The cedar shake on the two-story house, the original, that entire house would be done in cedar,
Siding and roof.
siding and roof, but it would have aluminum clad windows all the way around, including the little top ones, okay? And then, and
That's
I
what
would
you
make the
proposed
window
here.
trim to,
match with-
I would have my architect match with whatever the existing trim
Yes.
is, and that would probably be wood, I would imagine, that would have to be painted, that's fine. And then the parlor area in the front would have standing metal seam. And then, I think it wouldn't look right, honestly, if I just did, I think I'd have to do the whole thing in cedar
I think you
again.
do, because the
Yeah.
plane doesn't change.
It doesn't, it
If
won't
they
look,
had-
well,
if
that
they
was
had-
the issue that we had when the contractor came out. He goes, there's no way to reconcile
Yeah,
this.
yeah,
So-
it's very awkward when the plane doesn't change. It has to set back or extend
Right,
forward.
exactly,
And when that doesn't happen, it
Right.
just is awkward.
right.
Madam Chair, if he does that, then I think we could probably entertain this.
And I would do the gable, a little gable portico.
Yeah.
Okay, but we still need
I'd have to
a
have all
submission,
that.
and a
No,
submission
I'll
of
go
that.
through all the hoops again.
Yeah, I think it's just going to be a lot cleaner, instead of us making this
Coming
long,
back with it like, okay.
Right.
this long.
So what I don't want to do is, I don't want to use the original steel cut nails, because most of those rusted and
You don't
fell
have
off.
to.
I'm going to use stainless steel ring nails. I mean, there are certain things, he would probably wrap the house in a more modern, sort of air bubble vapor wrap,
Hopefully.
whatever he calls that thing, I don't know what it is. So there are going to be some modern things behind it, but the look of it would be the same.
But remind your architect that you're in a historic district.
No, I realize
And you're doing historic preservation.
No, I understand that. I appreciate that. Yeah.
And there are
I understand.
principles
These
that-
are, this is the deal. If, like, if you want to live here, this is what you got to do. That's, I get it.
You got
I
it.
get it. It's sort of,
Appreciate your willingness.
absolutely.
Yes,
No, I
yes.
understand it.
Yeah, welcome
It's,
to the club.
Right. It's, so, okay.
I do just want to say that part of the reason why I thought your plans were okay was because of the neighboring houses. And I haven't paid that close of attention, but going down, West 4th Street there, over the last 10 years, those other houses have made these changes, and they had to have come before H Park.
Not, well, but it's been a while.
10 years?
Yeah, some of them.
I
think
just-
the
I can't-
Dunbar
yeah.
house is more modern than not.
Right.
It wasn't that long ago, but I can't
Well,
say
I
that
mean,
we
then,
went before.
some of the materials have been approved, but usually not on the original structure.
The only reason I asked for that, because I've said it before, is that this commission has to be consistent in their decisions. When we allow things and when we don't allow things, they're again going along with the rhythm and scale of the street. Fair is fair, and that's, I'll point that out probably again sometime. But
Well,
just
I mean, I'm
wanted
not here to waste your time, obviously. Because I thought that the criteria was applied to my neighbors, then this is what's acceptable, a route to pursue, then I'm just doing likewise.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a
But,
reasonable
you know.
thought process. And I can't speak to those other submissions, so, but
Okay.
we really,
So I'll withdraw.
Thank
and
you very
then,
much.
And I will come back with a counter proposal that we
Yes,
discussed.
and
then
you'll
we'll
have
pursue it
the
from there.
window trim drawing,
Yep.
and you'll have the little overhang,
Yep.
as we discussed, and anything else.
And I'll have to have the contractor come and requote it, obviously.
Yeah.
Because you're going to need to see that
Yeah.
for him to get a building permit.
I
Madam
appreciate.
Chair, I have a couple things I'd like to say. I've
Oh,
not had an
sure.
opportunity
Oh, I
to
thought you
speak.
spoke earlier.
Not, no, I made two
sorry.
comments to his comments, but I have
I'm
not spoken.
very sorry, Randy.
I think that we get waylaid in our thinking here because of material use and the effect that material use has on aesthetic. We don't have purview over paint colors. So this gentleman, if he wanted to paint his house right now gray, he could. So, so as a result of that, in our material choices, we, or this body, prior to my involvement in it, approved hardy plank, the crappy little thin hardy plank to be used in the historic district versus a deeper profile. And if you look at all of the photographs that are in here, the distinction between the house to the right of his that Dave Dunbar did the design work on and the others that have changed is the profile of the siding. What makes that house look more historic is the depth of the profile of the siding. Now, we can talk about the roof and the pediments and all of those things, but when it comes to siding, that's what makes the difference. You can never take a piece of 3/8 inch or 3/16 inch hardy, put it on a wall and have it look like a 5/8 butt or 3/4 butt piece of siding. But there are plenty of sidings out there that can be painted that meet that criteria, and in other areas, it's allowed, and we do it all the time. And to Commissioner Thompson's point, we're not consistent in that, because there are houses that this body and the predecessor bodies to this have approved that did not have wood put back on the face of it, that did get painted. And I'm not saying, so when I looked at this application, I said, it's not the loss of the dark brown aged cedar that causes the devastation to the outside of this house if you just put hardy on it. It's the loss of the profiles. And that's something that I think that this body needs to get clear on about what we are approving and not approving. Because to make someone in 2022 or 23 probably by the time, not because of our approval of this body, but by the time your contractor is able to source materials, get your job going, to make them use wood isn't being a whole lot of different things. It certainly isn't being environmentally conscious, because we're just cutting down trees. It is not looking at what the long-term maintenance aspects of properties in Lewis are affected by, because when you paint a piece of composite 5/8 butt siding, it will last, the paint job on it will last for the next 15 years. All you gotta do is light power washing on it. But there's no way that the cedar, to your point, because it's gotten worse since 2002.
I think so.
The quality of the cedar materials that you're going to find, unless you go out and buy a 7/8 butt clear cedar siding, which God help you if you do, is just not going to hold up. So I'm reticent to think that and maybe it's the consensus of the body that this gentleman has to put cedar on his house, but I don't think that ought to be a requirement, nor that he ought to have to put wood for the profiles of his trim, because there are composite materials that exist in the market today that he can do an exact replication of every piece of trim that's on there, and I defy anybody to walk up to it or walk by it or ride by it or stand right next to it and say, that's composite, that's wood. Because once it's painted, you're never going to know the difference. I could take the siding off of your house, put composite siding that's exactly the same profiles, and when you pulled up in your driveway, you would not notice it. That's my thoughts.
The challenge we have is to preserve the historic character of the town. The older homes, the older structures, that have original wood siding on it are very obvious even when you drive by. You don't even have to walk by, that you can identify those structures, the siding on those structures, just like that, from new siding. And the synthetic materials, the smooth, flawless synthetic materials. They're very identifiable. We did a walking tour several years ago, HPC did. And when you walk the town, you can really see it. So I don't know the answer. I appreciate very much what you've just shared. And I think one of our charges is to go back and look at all materials that are available and have open discussions about it. But any historic town that requires and preserves original materials has a look to it.
But we'll make somebody put wood on the front of their building and let them put vinyl on the sides in the historic district.
We're not-
It doesn't, I mean, it's incompatible. It really is, Madam Chair, and what I'm saying is, you cannot tell the difference of a smooth old siding and a new composite siding painted. Not a textured cedar siding, not a heavy, knotty cedar siding that's all burled up, but if it's been painted over the last 150 years, it has so much paint on it. That's why I said what I said to the commissioner sitting next to me. I guarantee you, I
Well,
can take 5 pieces.
he sands his wood before he paints it really nicely.
Well, which is what everybody should do.
Well, they don't. They don't.
I would also like to add, just because this board has approved a material for use, doesn't mean it has to be applied here.
I don't understand that.
Well, that
He's
doesn't
talking.
make any sense.
No, he's saying just because we have approved hardy board in the past at times, doesn't mean it's automatically approves material on every project.
Like a non-contributing versus a
Well,
contributing.
right, and I think that goes to rhythm and scale,
Yeah.
so.
Well,
The only thing I can say to his comment versus your comment is when I put all new cedar on, an all new cedar shake, the house is not going to look dark brown anymore. It's going to be very light
that's
wood
okay.
colored for
That's
a
okay.
good period of time. So when it comes to the color,
that's all right.
the brown is not going to stay.
No, I mean, there are several houses with new cedar on them.
Right.
In Shipcarpenters Square. And some of them, if they care to, are doing a constant, a maintenance program on it to keep it oiled and.
Right.
And, which is
right.
very easy to do, not
Right.
huge amount of
Again,
time.
I can't speak to that because I wasn't here, and so
I know.
this is not. My father was an English professor, and my mother's got Parkinson's, so
Yeah.
she's not one to be able to go out and do anything. I have to do it all.
Yeah.
So I'm just looking at, all right, what is in my purview? What can I do that's going to be to satisfy all the parties involved? That's what I'm trying to do. So.
Well, appreciate it very much. Appreciate the input as well. And Randy, your comments, which we'll
Thank you.
get into again. So thank you very much.
Okay.
We'll see you next month.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Okay.
Franklin. Franklin, yeah, okay.
We have
I actually put my packet back in order, so, so far,
So
so
did
good.
I.
So far, so good.
All right, presentation and discussion and possible action on H-15-22, behalf of Timeless Finds LLC, Michael Finkle, for the demolition of a non-contributing structure and construction of a new single-family house. The property is located at 130 Franklin Street, Sussex County Tax Map 335-8.12-17.00R4-8. Welcome again.
Hello. Nice
Hello,
to see
hello.
everyone again.
Yeah.
State your name for the record, please, Michael.
Mike Finkle, 37519 Oyster House Road, Rehoboth Beach, Delaware. And some new faces.
Yes, yes.
Everyone looks a lot tanner this time around.
Yes, I know.
Maybe.
I just
Maybe.
get red. I don't get tan. I just get red.
I don't
I'll
get
probably
tan
get red,
either.
more red as we're explaining.
Hope not.
Alrighty.
So you've got a big project here. You're asking
Yeah.
for a demolition of a non-contributing structure and then new construction. So you want to fill everybody in?
Yeah, sure.
Are we hearing the application for the new construction and before we approve the demolition?
It's a non-contributing.
Non-contributing doesn't have to have a hearing.
We don't do a
Public hearing
We don't
is
do a
required.
public hearing for
Okay.
non-contributing. There's no question about that.
Yes,
Thank you.
but if I may, just real quick, you guys do need to make a decision on whether the demolition should occur, and it might make sense to do that first before approving.
Well,
Okay, why don't you just give us a little tidbit of info on the demolition?
Yeah, so we'll
And
update
why
on
you're
that.
doing it, and then we can vote, and then we can do the presentation.
Right. So when we purchased the estate, we purchased both 126 and 130, which 130 is what we're looking at. And, you know, when it comes to height, proportion, rhythm, and scale, this magenta 1950s piece that had its charm at one point, you know, makes no sense on the street. So that's where we knew, you know, we wanted to go with a new build, but also fit the rhythm, scale, height, and proportion of the street with the plans that we presented. So, you know,
Okay.
the structure itself on the, when you step inside, it's sinking. You know, they definitely didn't support it right from underneath. The crawl space has a big opening in the back, so probably had water and, you know, was a nice place for raccoons and, you know, all that. So, you know, even if we wanted to restore it, it wouldn't be worth it. Again, wouldn't fit the scale, rhythm, proportion, or height of anything on the street. We think it would do it much more justice to get a fresh start, but pay more contribute to the street itself and the history of Lewis.
And you want to demo everything, the sheds and all, right?
Yeah, so the shed in the back was actually condemned because it is, you know, completely fallen in on itself, unfortunately. That would have been a nice little project
Yeah,
to
yeah.
restore, but it's just not safe at this point.
Right.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions about the request for demolition?
I make a motion, we approve the demolition.
Second.
Okay. All right, motion made and seconded. All those in favor of the request, say
Aye.
aye. Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? Okay, motion passed. Thank you very much.
Could,
Starting
you,
off on a
Brian.
good foot.
I'm sorry,
Okay.
would
Oh,
you
sorry.
guys be able to provide a basis for your votes? Just want to make sure that we're all,
Yes.
I'd like-
I'm sorry.
Having made the motion for approval of demolition, I made the motion due to the fact that this is a non-contributing structure that's fallen into somewhat of a state of disrepair, and that greater use of the property would be new construction on that property.
Thank you. And if everybody agrees with Mr. Burton or Commissioner Burton's comments, you may also adopt them.
Okay. Agree with his comments, and I recommend approval.
I go along with Commissioner Burton, and then I want to add to that that the current structure is ugly as sin.
I wasn't going to.
Bring it down.
We don't really cover that.
No,
We don't have that in our
sorry.
guidelines.
I withdraw my comment.
It must be a code.
Section 2, paragraph 3.
Yeah, I think it's something that George has been working on. I agree with the motion, and also I think it's a new construction there would be a real asset to the street, and definitely as an adjacency to your property. You're
Right.
already-
I totally agree with everything that's just been said.
Thank you.
And I do as well. And in addition, would you like to add that the outbuilding that's been condemned has a negative impact on the safety and welfare of the city? So it's of grave concern.
Yes, I concur with the previous suggestions.
Great, okay. It passes unanimously. All right, so we have that behind us, and now we can go on to talk about your application.
All right, great.
All right, and would you like to tell us something about how you decided on this particular design as a, what we call infill? You know,
Yeah.
it's a new construction totally?
Yeah, that'd be great. So we did have plans that were different to these at first. That we actually had a preliminary meeting with the city. They were nice enough to, we sat down for a good hour and a half and, went through a lot. And those previous plans, when I looked at them, they were a lot less contributing to the streetscape than what we were able to come up with now. So, I went back to my architect and basically said, look, it's a beautiful building, but it's not going to work. So that's where we changed a lot of things, especially with the windows, the face, the porch. we actually forewent a garage to make it more like the other structures on the streetscape. And what we came up with was something where I, was basically had the H-Park, the HPC brochure as my guideline.
Good.
And we made sure, I was staying out there with my contractors and, my engineer guy, and basically said, look, this is what we got to do. We got to make it look like it was here in the first place. So that's when we came over with this design, the more classic 3/3 window. We are having the 6/6 pane windows, the Victorian style porch. On the street, we see a mix of federal and Victorian structures, so we thought that fit in well. So when we came up with this design, we know for a fact that we fit the height of the similar streetscape. The proportion, the rhythm, and the scale, we feel are all, basically contributing to the streetscape itself and historic Lewis.
Okay. I'm sure everybody's got some questions or comments. Randy, would you like to start?
No, I'm not prepared to. I guess I misunderstood that we were reviewing this for construction, so I need to look at the plans more.
Okay. Who would like to start?
I'd
Bill?
be glad to.
Okay.
Let me see, okay, well, it's going to look a lot better than what's there now.
Yeah, we're hoping.
No question about that at all. A question on the windows.
Okay.
Looking at the windows here, you said your windows are going to kind of match what you have over on the one next door.
Correct.
But now, when I see the design of the windows here, are they going to be 6/6?
They are going to be 6/6.
You got them drawn 4/4.
Yeah.
Correct. So in this drawing, the plans, the revised plans were made after we chose the final materials.
Okay.
So that was a case where if I went back to my architect a third time, he was going to send me a pretty hefty bill to change once again. But in the corresponding packet, which is titled...
Excuse me, Janelle, if you could just show the front elevation, I think that'll be fine. Instead of, yeah.
Okay.
The corresponding packet, 130 Franklin Ave, exterior materials list for new construction, page 1, 2, 3, 4, page 7, thank you. That shows the windows that we will be using, and these were approved, I guess it was two meetings ago.
They were approved on your current house. Your
Correct,
existing house.
126 Franklin.
They were approved in order that you were not redoing all the windows and you wanted to match your existing windows. And that's why they were approved, but they're not an approved window. So we cannot approve them for new construction.
Okay, so I guess my understanding was that aluminum-clad 6/6 pane was a window that would be approved by the commission?
It is, but we have set windows that we approve.
The Marvin.
Don't have full simulated divided lights. The ply gem only have an internal finial in the
Right.
glass. They do not have a full applied, and one of the requirements in the historic district is that the windows have to have an exterior applied mutton on.
Understood, okay.
But that's not what we have.
And what we've approved in the past is the Anderson 400 series, the 200 series, and the Marvin Integrity, and there's another, the architectural series in the Marvin line as well.
Okay,
So,
great. And, I realize that these discussions are important to find these little things that need to be changed. So, if that, along with, maybe some other minor changes if
Yeah,
needed.
let me keep going.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, let's take a look at that front door.
Okay,
Okay. They always say the door is the heart and the windows are the soul of a house, okay? So I looked down the street, and I looked at all the doors in the street, and a lot of them are different, but a lot of the houses are Victorian. So I think you're trying to get a Victorian look here.
correct.
I would a door just looks so modern and so different. You did a good job on your door next door for your period home there.
Right.
Take a look at those doors down the street and stuff, but what I would recommend is, you can easily find a good Victorian door that would not look modern looking like this one.
Yeah.
And this one looks like you'd find Nebraska. So.
Gotcha.
Find you one, and you can kind of use the ones on the street just kind of as a guide, but they're, and then come back to us with a better door, I would recommend.
Right.
Because that door just is so, modern looking.
Yeah. So I'm a big fan of Facebook Marketplace. That's where I find a lot of my antiques.
You have no trouble.
Yeah.
You got that.
Right.
Let me see, what else? Talk to me a little bit about the brick here. So this brick, is this brick going to be like, it's not going to be like what you did with your property next door to you, right? Or is it?
No, it will not be.
Is it going to be blocked with brick veneer?
For the front,
Particularly in the front, yes.
we were hoping for block with brick veneer.
You are, okay.
And it is a actual antique brick, just cut to size.
Okay, so it's the same size as a normal brick.
The depth is just, it's not full depth, it's half the
Right, it's
depth,
not
that's
full
what you're
depth.
saying, right?
Half the depth? Okay, well, that's all right.
But they do also come with corner bricks,
Okay,
so it completely hides the,
that's fine.
you'd have to dig down with a shovel to see the concrete.
Exactly, that's fine. I think that's all I'm going to say for now.
Okay. George, do you have anything you want to?
No, just to go along with what Randy and Bill said, and particularly with the door, that was the only comment I had, so.
Yeah, if you don't mind, I definitely do want to find an antique door to present for timings of presenting all my things in time.
That could
That's
be
what I
changed
had.
out, couldn't it?
But I'd love to change it out for, a period mahogany antique door. And
Okay.
honestly, it's going to be cheaper than the new one, so.
Okay.
And my carpenter's used to me giving him
Well,
little
let's-
custom
well,
jobs to
let's
do.
wait
I knew you could do it.
Have a
Thank you.
motion for that.
Okay.
Melissa, do you have any questions?
Actually, I had a question about the site plan. I don't know if this is entirely within our purview, but I noticed that the house is 8.9 feet at its closest to the house to the west. And the driveway is going in there. Isn't that correct? Next to the house?
The 8.9 feet gap that you're seeing should be the property line itself.
Yeah, from
think
the property
it's-
line to the house.
I thought it, but
Oh,
it's,
yes,
isn't it,
correct.
isn't it 10.6 to the house from the property
So
line?
I'll get on the same document.
No, that's on the other side. That's
Oh, the
on-
left side, you're looking at the right side?
I'm looking at the right side, yes.
Okay, yeah, that looks like 8.9.
Right.
Okay.
And the driveway's going in there. And I'm wondering why the house couldn't slide over a couple of feet to
Sure.
the left
Yeah,
to give the driveway at least a full 9 feet and maybe a little extra so that you can screen from the neighboring property.
I wish it could. The one problem there is the HVAC unit, the outdoor HVAC unit. Where it is to be placed now, that gives us really close within the setback. So that HVAC unit is on the opposite side. So pretty much what we're doing is have to sacrifice for a skinny driveway.
where
the
is your
setback.
HVAC unit going? That's going to be on the left side of the house? Is it towards the rear of that last bump out?
So after the rear elevations, that would be page, I believe, 4 of the building plans themselves.
Just the big drawing?
Yep. Yeah, the big one.
Just look at yours. I'm not unrolling that monster.
Well, your AC unit is sitting in your, outside of your setback, right? Yeah, there it is.
Yeah, it's about the
There.
middle.
So it's already sitting in that space that you're trying to avoid, so why can't you shift it over? What's the code on the mechanicals?
From
Where
the
they-
side setback.
8 feet setback with a size required for it.
It has to be, the mechanical has to be 8 feet, or can it be in the 8-foot setback?
Cannot be an 8 foot setback.
So this currently can't be where it's shown.
Well, so where we have it going, it just fits inside the 8-foot setback. For,
So that's why he's saying he can't move the house, because if he moves the
No,
house, then
it's
the
not,
HV...
it's not sitting where you're showing it then. It's actually going to sit in that 2-foot space to the right?
yeah, correct.
Okay, so
We're gonna go, we're basically,
it's not drawn
we're gonna
correctly.
go
You're-
in.
You're not drawn correctly. That's what you're saying? This is actually moving over into this space?
Yeah, so pretty much at that point when we're dealing with code enforcement, and when we get to a point where we're putting in the outside unit, we have to make sure that we're within that 8-foot setback. So we do have a little cushion between the 2-foot. So yeah, it would be slightly inside of that 2-foot, unlike the drawing right there.
Okay.
So, and just for clarification, the foundation plan is not a survey and not of the property. It's just a foundation plan showing the layout of the house.
Yeah, Melanie, where do you see a site plan that shows the driveway on the right? I only see the one that shows the existing driveway on the left-hand side. Is there a different plan than what is in my packet here?
There should be,
It's the last
Sorry.
page in this packet.
Oh, in the demolition packet.
No. Well, I guess so.
This is, yeah, there's one for the way the existing drawing is. and
Oh,
for the-
it's the packet with all of the specs.
It's in the blue bind, yeah, you got it.
so that survey shows the hardscaping and the outdoor unit.
Oh,
There it is.
really?
First off, I think your architect has done a good job with breaking up the plains exterior walls of the house so that the scale doesn't seem so large.
Thank you.
But taking into consideration the driveway you talked about and working with a site plan, I think he ought to go back, or she ought to go back to the drawing board and make some revisions, because you don't want to get the house, the foundation in, and then, oh my goodness, I cannot get a driveway on the side, or I can't get my HVAC unit on the side of the house where you want it. I think those things need to be worked out on paper and then go ahead with construction.
So that was the main reason for the extra survey that shows my kind of hand drawing of the walkways, the driveway, and the HVAC unit. On that survey that was just discovered, the unit is closer in, and I was obviously myself with multiple measures. It was more like measure 5 times, cut once, and so we are making sure where the plans are right now do fit, and that came with the sacrifice of a skinny driveway, which honestly will probably end up just parking in that first space, because the lots on Franklin Street, they all do have a slight angle to them.
I went there.
Okay, great. All right, you saw them.
So the,
But you could shift this house a foot to the left without a problem.
you could move your
I mean,
HVAC
you
back
have plenty
further
of room.
towards the rear of the house.
You have 2 feet 6
Getting wide.
inches, and your HVAC unit would not be encroaching at that point. I mean, just to give yourself, it's 9 foot is the minimum width for a driveway, right?
House this way and not impact the location of the HVAC, because it's back behind the bump out.
Right, and we'll still be in.
And you're still gonna be okay with the setback, because if the HVAC is behind that bump out,
Right.
you're just
And
shifting
now we
this over.
can't hear you.
So I'm just showing him on the survey, if he's, because the HVAC is on, behind the bump out, if he shifts that, the HVAC should still be okay, because the bump out is the issue. If the HVAC is, again, behind that second bump out on the side, he should be able to move that over.
All right, great. Yeah.
And you could, and depending on how, the mechanicals haven't been done yet, so you could actually slide it further back, and your lot, spreads out towards the rear, so you'd even have more room.
Right,
You
just
can see it just pies out.
from a mechanical standpoint, we just always figure the closer the outdoor unit to the indoor unit, the more efficient the whole system. That's why.
Well, I didn't know where the mechanicals, how they were laid out.
Yeah, so it's,
But if, and you're trying to get it as close as possible to the mechanical
Right,
side.
exactly.
Yeah, I get that. but maybe that can move too. Anyway, you've got some wiggle room there, you know?
Yeah, that'd be great, as long as it, if it doesn't require an additional submission, that would be appreciated. If it's more like an approval with the condition.
Well, it's a code, that will be a code issue, and that will be addressed,
Right.
with Joe and Janelle.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, so
Me
you
and
want.
Joe get along great.
Yeah. So, yeah. So anyway, we're just trying to look from the design standpoint, from the H Park standpoint,
Right.
and looking for how to solve some of the problems.
Right, yeah, I appreciate your comments, because now a 10-foot driveway means I can just get my truck in there, so
That's
that
right.
will work.
Okay, where'd we leave off? George?
No, we were down here.
Okay,
Michael.
Oh, actually, I had one more issue. Have you checked your coverage numbers? Are you okay on total impervious?
Yes, they're on the survey.
I'm sorry?
They're noted on the survey.
But it's not our purview, Melanie. That's up
Yep.
to those guys.
We'll
It's
double
not-
check and triple check before he gets a permit and he gets a CO if this
All
is
right.
approved.
Sorry.
Okay, Michael?
Yeah, I agree that this particular proposed structure is in harmony with the streetscape. But I have, in view, in sort of viewing the front side of the structure, and as Michael, as you indicated, the street basically is a combination of various types of houses. You've got bungalows, you've got Victorians, you've got colonials, and you've got vernacular Gothic revivals, what have you. And there just seems to be a lot going on, and this sort of is tied to the issue with the windows and the door, and you've added dental molding and what have you. And I'm just wondering whether, in keeping with the streetscape, where the various houses are very, very well defined. You've got the bungalows and the Victorian, what have you, whether you might want to just focus on, one type of front presentation as opposed to
Yeah.
multiple.
Yeah, I agree with what Michael's saying, and one of my questions was, what style is this house?
Right, Victorian aesthetic.
Foursquare and federal
Victorian.
style and.
Yes, Victorian.
I guess Victorian with a little bit of this and that?
Well, you got, look at the porch,
Yeah, that's,
You got the
and at the
decorative.
windows, he's going to change the windows. I see what you're saying.
Yeah, we see a lot of front porches on the street, and there is
Right.
one home at least with that L porch, with this side
oh, the
porch.
L porches are very much, but L porches are farmhouse, L porches are, a lot of different styles.
Right,
But I
right.
think it gets into the detail, and as they say, the devil's in the detail. And so you put too much gingerbread on a house that really doesn't want it, and then it's not sure what it is anymore. So you just have to kind of go back to your architect and, either simplify some things or change things around a bit.
I think-
We're not here to design for you,
Yeah.
although it sounds like it sometimes, but but I think the review process is, we're not clear about what period style this is supposed to be.
Once he changes the windows, I think it'll be better.
Okay.
Yeah.
What was that change you were talking about?
And did you consider
It's a double hung.
shutters? I think listening to what Barbara said, what style is this house? The windows, are they casement? Are they double hung? I think you need to decide what the house is going to be and then aim for it.
Right, so
I mean,
going,
again, the scale, there's a lot of house there, but because the different elements break down the size of the house, that's a good thing.
right,
But it's the style that's kind of here nor there.
so that was the goal with how the scale was broken down, so that.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Oh, sorry. So that was the goal with how the scale was broken down, to make it seem less of a broad structure.
Right,
While
and-
still
And
fitting
that
within the
works,
lines.
it does.
And with your point on the windows, I'm completely fine with that. We know we're going to do the 6/6.
Double hung.
Correct. Double hung Anderson style window. We'll go with the 400s. I believe that, in combination with what we presented, is suitable for the streetscape and what we've done. Another notion in the brochure that I noted that I thought was also a big, let's say, part of the rhythm of the street is the separate gables and the different style of roof pitches and the way that they face. And in the H Park brochure, it states that they encourage those different pitches, slopes, double gables, because that's how it would have been done back in the day, I guess.
What you find in the whole district.
Right, so that's where, after reviewing the brochure, contemplating with the streetscape, and it has been, hours and hours and hours with my architect going over little details and making sure that, we presented something where it would have been, a one shot, I would have been comfortable with it. It would be something that I would be comfortable moving into myself, knowing that it fits the streetscape and fits in historic Lewis, and that we were able to, start this process and the construction and, ultimately get rid of a structure as soon as possible while, people are here and visiting Lewis and seeing what's happening and, let it be shown what we're doing.
Has your architect been here?
Yeah, he's been in Lewis. Yeah, he knows of the town. He's visited before. So he knows the importance of it. So whenever I talk to anyone, I tell them, look, we're dealing with the first city in the first state. So then, they perk up and they make sure to get the detail, so.
I have a question. I don't think I saw a roof plan. You don't have a roof plan here, do you? That shows where, is there?
It's the last page of the plan set.
Of the big jobs?
Yep.
So, one thing, a lot of paper here. So, when you talk about changing roof angles and things to reflect how buildings evolve in the town of Lewis, that evolution also explains how houses grow, which your roof plan doesn't identify. Your roof plan is just all these different angles, but all at one time. So historic structures in Lewis, the first rectangle will be built, and then something will be added on, and then another wing will come out perpendicular. And that's why the roof angles are different. They actually reflect the period and evolution of a structure. They're not just aesthetic, what I like to see.
Right, which was not the case at all.
But I think that's what the roof plan looks like.
So going back to the roof plan and the evolution of homes through historic Lewis, we see a lot of that on the specific street itself. So that's where we kept kind of going back to, we wanted more to fit in to the streetscape, being these different pitches, different roofs, double gables if something were added at one point, and making sure that we fit in what the streetscape is right now. So that's really why we kept going back to this type of roof. And then also the addition was making the scale of the home fit the proportion, which, whenever I went over with anyone that was dealing with these plans, we read every time, height, proportion, scale, and rhythm. And that's what I have memorized, because so we just kept going back to it, because it is really important to me, especially, I'm my own neighbor, so I don't want this thing to look like an eyesore.
Yeah, I guess it's the front section, with all those different changes in the roof, as I'm looking up on the screen at the roof plan, and it should be the same thing over here.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, it just doesn't seem to be how the house would have been constructed with all those different change of direction on the roof. Anybody else want to comment on that? Contractor? Bill? You're good the way it is now? Okay. All right. Okay. All right, no other comments? No. Okay, so where do we stand?
Well, I have here to change the front door, and I might suggest that, I think the motion would be to get a more historic, appropriate door, and if you prefer, we could make that chair and staff review,
Okay.
you know. And then I have the double hung windows be used throughout.
And there's 6 over 6
6 over
Anderson
6.
400.
Yeah, we'll go 400.
Is there
Okay.
anything else, Janelle?
I'll try to put that together now. You ready?
Okay.
And
Any other
shifting the house?
I don't think are you going to, and that you're going to consider shifting, doing a site shift on the house?
Well, so if
That's-
that doesn't have to do with approval with
It
H Park?
doesn't, it
Okay,
doesn't.
All right,
Yeah,
great.
Yeah, I don't think that's
Then in-
part of our
that would-
purview, but it's just was part of our discussion.
Right, in later time, if we could get approval from the city to do that, finding that it does work.
Yeah, I think
then,
that
yeah,
would be
great.
Janelle and Joe, you can work that
Okay.
out. Yeah. Anything else that we, okay,
Okay,
you ready, George?
All right, because the application concerns a property that is addressed at 130 Franklin Avenue in Lewis, uses previously approved materials and conforms with the rhythm and scale requirements, and is in the Lewis Historic District, I move that the application be approved with the following changes: that the front door be of a more historic significance to the street, subject to chair and staff review, and that the windows throughout are double hung 6x6 Anderson 400s,
Okay.
SDL.
SPL.
SDL.
SDL.
Divided by.
Okay.
If I could get that in
Slower,
writing,
lower.
that'd be great.
Okay?
Let's make
Okay.
sure.
All right, have a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you. Okay, and we're going to go around and say why we're voting how we're voting.
And again, if another commissioner had a basis that you liked, you were more than welcome to adopt it.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate that,
Okay,
you know?
and you made the motion, you get to vote
All right.
first.
I'm going to vote in favor because I really like your plans with the changes that have been discussed. The only hang-up I had was the door be more significant to the street. So I think you've got a good project, and this is going to be a great improvement to the street.
Yeah, thank you,
And the city.
appreciate it. I plan to impress with that door.
I think so.
Randy?
I adopt Commissioner Thompson's motion.
Okay. Bill?
I agree with Commissioner Thompson, and I think as far as rhythm and scale goes, it'll fit in better with all the other houses in the street.
Melissa?
I agree with the previous commissioners' statements.
Okay, Michael?
Yeah, I don't vote to approve because I believe that it doesn't quite fit right now with the compatibility. The exterior design doesn't fit with the compatibility and arrangement of other houses on the street. I think there are just too many components, and it sort of throws the rhythm and scale off a little bit.
Okay. Bill?
I couldn't hear if it was a yes or a no.
It's a no.
Yeah, I feel the same way, that we talked about enough items that I would really like you to come back and have the drawings changed so that there's no misunderstanding when we talk about windows and front door and property lines and driveways and HVA units, and that they all fit. So I do not vote yes. I vote no.
Okay. My big concern is the roof plan. I think it's very choppy, and I don't think it shows how historic buildings are constructed here in the town. And, you know, they actually tell a story, you know, because buildings are built in sections. And I think there's too much going on the streetscape. But I think you're you know, generally, it certainly is a huge improvement to the existing house, but I just think there could be some additional improvement. So I'm going to vote no. But
That's 4 yes and 3 no.
Yeah, so
Motion
it
carries.
still carries.
Okay, and, you know, honestly, I'd be glad to discuss with you three in further,
Okay.
and see with these plans what we could do to get your nose a little closer to a yes. I definitely anything, you'd like
Well,
to
we
see.
could-
But the only thing you have to do is come back with a door.
Right. And windows.
Yes.
Anderson,
windows.
400,
I think
double
i-
hung.
if you
That's what
want
you're required.
advice,
If
if
you-
you want advice,
Yeah, if you want to do something further, get a hold of Joe, Janelle, and if you want to follow up with just a sidebar kind of conversation, we can arrange
Right,
that.
that'd be great. From a financial standpoint and a timetable standpoint, the approval today was very important, but,
Good.
love to discuss in the future as well.
Good. Okay. Well, thank you very much, and good luck.
Yeah, thank you, appreciate it.
Okay,
agenda.
moving right along. Not too careful.
I've lost my agenda.
Your agenda.
It's here, I'll find it. Yeah.
All right, so we have presentation and possible action to schedule a public hearing on a request of H-16-22 on behalf of Leanne Wilkerson and Aaron Hood for demolition of or relocation of the contributing accessory structures and building additions. Consideration of the installation of a new foundation, basement, windows, and the construction of a new two-story addition. The property is located 354 Pilot Town Road, Sussex County Tax Map 335-4, 19-83.00, R-2H. And who's coming up?
Two of us.
Okay. All right, we'll need your name and address. You know the drill.
Leanne Wilkinson, 130 Jefferson Avenue, Lewis.
And Brenda Jones, 123 East Third.
All right, who's first?
I guess I'm going to start. I guess the first thing we have to talk about is there's a cement block garage that is on the back of the house that was detached at one point. I think everybody's got a survey, original survey. So it was detached from the house. It sits behind the house. The current owner, which she purchased this house in 1996, connected kind of a shed from the house to the garage. The garage, unfortunately, is in very bad condition. It has a hole in the roof, and it sits over my neighbor-to-be's property line by about a foot or so, maybe a little more. So I want to get rid of that garage. That's the first thing. And because you can't see it from the street, and because it's just a cement block garage, and I do realize that it was built before whatever the 1940, whatever it is, it doesn't seem like it's got a lot of historical value to it. The doors on it, those sliding doors, I would like to keep and use somewhere. I don't think we put that in the application.
You
Did we?
did.
It is.
You did.
Okay.
You did,
Oh, we did?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So, yeah, I want to keep the doors.
You did.
But the garage, especially because it sits on the neighbor's property, I can't really go over there and work on it, and I don't think they want it on their property, and it's pretty ugly, especially on that side. And they've got a really nice house next door. So I want to take that off, and obviously that's going to, and the additions between that and the house were just built since 1996, and they're just kind of like a shed-type area. But that'll let me add and you have what I want to add on, my additions. The other structure that you're seeing sort of in the middle of the lot is, also was a cement block garage. And at some point, well, I know when, Rob Gibbs's family lived here, if anybody remembers the Gibbs paint store and Mr. and Mrs. Gibbs. They bought this house in 1960. I guess shortly thereafter, Rob's grandparents needed to move down to Delaware with their kids. So they took the garage that was in the middle of the property, and they added several rooms around it and turned it into a dwelling unit. So it now has a kitchen, a bathroom, a bedroom, and a living room. So it's, again, not in good condition at all. But if I could, I have two choices here. I would like to either, once again, get rid of it. The additions around it were not historic, and the garage was a cement block garage again. I would like to get rid of it, or if that's not possible, move it to the back left. Is that what we're doing? Back over this way.
Left or right.
Yeah, if you're facing it to the right in the back, yeah. So that's what I think that's the first thing we have to talk about. And then Barbara said potentially you would look at the rest of the drawing, even though we have to go to the public hearing, which I know is August the 4th, to decide on that stuff, that you would look at this other part of it and potentially give me some suggestions.
Yeah.
So I'm not blindsided after the next thing,
Okay.
if possible.
So I think first thank you very much. You gave clarity to what this is all about. And so we need a motion to set a public hearing for next month. And so I need a motion for that?
So moved.
So move. Okay. Second? You don't need a
Second.
motion, right? We
You don't need a reason, just, you guys do need to vote, though.
Okay.
So-
So we're going to vote to have the hearing.
Yes, to set
Okay.
a public hearing on the demolition
Okay,
or
so
removal.
Randy made a motion, you seconded it.
It'll be prior
and
to,
all-
it'll be prior to our
Prior to our,
monthly
yeah.
meeting.
So it would be at 6 PM, because
Right.
you have to actually put a date, a
Okay,
time
so-
with that, and then the meeting could just immediately
Right,
follow
Right.
that, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, that is.
That's
So I
Okay.
just need everybody to vote in agreement on that?
I just have one question. Has it been established that the garage, which is encroaching, and the guest house
Are
are
contributing.
contributing?
Yes,
Yes.
Okay, all right,
Yes.
the surveys indicate that.
okay.
Okay, so all in favor of...
Can I make a comment, too?
Yes, sure.
On the garage part, of course, it's not visible to us.
No, it's
Right.
not.
It's none, well,
So is that something we could just exclude, and they can just demolish that?
No.
It'd still be
It's
a-
dem-
it'd still be
it's
a public
contributing.
hearing.
Contributing, we
Yeah,
gotta go.
because it's
Yeah.
contributing.
Okay.
We still got.
Okay,
So
just a
all
question.
those in favor of setting a hearing for next
Aye.
month?
Aye.
6 o'clock, aye. Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? No, okay. Okay, so now
I
you...
just have one more question.
Sure.
It seems that the guest house is identified as 356 Pilot Town Road,
It has its own address.
so, but this is one lot, one parcel.
We don't know why. But
Okay.
it's had its own address, and people have been living there since since Rob Gibbs' grandparents lived there,
All right.
starting in 1964, 62, 65. He can't remember exactly when they moved here.
Right.
His parents bought the house in 1960.
What's the neighbor to the right's address then? Does it go 54,
58.
56,
It
50?
must be-
58.
No, wait,
No.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
58, because then Mariah and Sam's is 60, so, yeah, so.
This was the only
It's
house.
not its own address. I don't know the answer to,
Why?
I don't think it was ever 2 lots, I don't think so.
Well, I mean, if you look back in 19,
In the Sanborns, it
Sanborn
doesn't,
maps, it
yeah.
was just one parcel.
Right,
Yeah.
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 I mean, it's always been one parcel. Yeah.
crazy.
Okay,
wonder-
Hudson must have changed all the numbers.
Maybe it's just easier for the 911,
Right.
to find somebody or whatever, I don't know.
I don't know. Okay, so then your request next month is going to be for demolition of the garage, the attachment to the original house, which was
Right.
much later, and also the separate garage, et cetera, whatever you call that space.
Mhm.
Now, a living space.
Yeah.
To demolish that. Okay.
And, I mean, we have pictures, I think, in there. I mean, if anybody wants to go and look at this, I will be happy. You can't just go because there's still people renting this house. It's a rental.
I
So-
went up the driveway today.
Okay. Yeah, and then the neighbors next door don't want you walking in their driveway, but you can walk around the back. But I need to know if anybody wants to go look at it, because I don't want to upset these people that are staying there.
But there are some really good
I don't
pictures
need
in
to
the
see it.
packet.
No, I think the pictures are very adequate.
Okay.
They're very thorough.
I think they're very,
I agree.
they're very good, yeah. No, they're very good pictures. Let's see, do you want to ask anything specific at this time of us, or?
Madam Chair, just going back to FOIA, the public hearing and scheduling it was the only thing that was on the agenda, and so I just want to make sure.
Really?
Yeah.
Presentation,
It
says
says
presentation,
possible
possible action,
To
schedule a
schedule a
public
public
on
hearing.
request, relocation, consideration of the installation of a new foundation, basement, windows, the construction of a new two-story addition. The property is located at 354 Pilot Town Road. All that's on here.
That's what you're scheduling for, yes, the public hearing for demolition.
Really?
Yes. They
I-
need to, in order to submit a application for demolition, there always has to be a plan that's submitted with the demolition. So that's why you would submit them at the same time.
Well, I interpreted this to mean that everything was being submitted, because as it has been submitted to us, and so because it's submitted to us at this time, and all we do is schedule the demo, but we can review this
You can
and,
make like macro comments, right?
yeah, that's, I mean, I
It
think.
really saves time, because if they come back and then we have a whole bunch of issues, then they gotta come back a third month.
And I understand that, I'm just giving you my
You-
legal
you-
advice
Okay,
and my
okay.
interpretation.
Janelle, how do you interpret this? Because it does list the whole.
I'm not
thing.
going against the attorney. I'm not getting into that one. But I do understand where you're coming from. But we
And-
do
and-
try to put the entire application so everybody knows it's not just a demolition, but there is plans for other things.
Yeah, I think, and in the past, we have, when people
Yeah, yeah.
have asked, especially if, depending on which way the application might go, hinges on how receptive we may be to one thing or another, or
Yeah.
if there's some area that, the applicant or the designer is concerned about. We have made comments, but I understand if you don't feel comfortable doing that. Although this application seems very, very thorough.
It is, because we did think that you were going to, we didn't think you were going to approve anything tonight. We thought you were going to look at it tonight and give us some direction, because as the guy that was just up here said, time is very important right now
I know.
with contractors and getting things going. And not that that's anybody else's problem but mine, but I need to get going.
It's errands.
And errands, yeah.
Yeah, I'll tell you what we have done in the past, and maybe Janelle and I can talk about this another time, or Joe. I know in the past, we have had something like a chair and staff, when people have asked a question such as, is my application complete? Are there other things you need to see, or something like that, so.
Yes, the code does allow for the chair to meet with the applicant to go over a few things. It's just, I believe, as Brian has mentioned in previous meetings, it's the chair and then, staff can meet with the applicant to have discussions.
So when you come back in August, it's like we talked about it tonight, but we didn't. Okay? So
Barbara-
you go with her, and then we're good to go in August.
You're right. From a macro standpoint, I've made comments in the past.
Yeah.
And I'm very careful what the attorney is saying here. I'm listening. Yes, he's our guy.
Well, and
But things like I would say, is that, when
What
you're
would you
putting an
say?
addition onto the property, when you're putting an addition there,
Yeah.
and I think I see it in the drawing, it's below the height of the original.
And
Those
that's
are
good.
things we're looking for, and that's very good.
Good.
We tried, all three of us tried really hard to make sure that you guys knew we are not changing that original house. And we
Yeah.
went by the guidelines. We don't want you to say no. We want you to say
Right.
yes.
And-
So we tried to do it just like we thought you would want us to do it.
Yeah.
And you're-
And with your,
Then it should
And
just
you're
sail
basic-
right
you're ba-
through in August.
And with your windows, keep your windows.
And you've basically done a terrific job in restoring parts of the original structure that need to be repointed, and shakes that need to be replaced, and
Yeah.
roofing materials that need to be
The house
replaced.
has not had much done to it in
No,
a long
no.
time. And it needs it, and pretty
And
desperately.
most importantly, it needs a foundation,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
that's going to be an undertaking in
Yep.
itself.
And we
because
have
it's-
those guys lined up for September.
Okay, let me
Right.
ask you a question. Okay, that's a maintenance project, Janelle. Maintenance, they need to redo the foundation of the existing house.
But we gotta lift up the house, so.
But typically, it's part of the application, but if they want to withdraw a specific part of the application, I think they could do that, say withdrawing the foundation, and then we could send that to chair and staff, and that could get reviewed if it's under $50,000. Because otherwise, it
No.
can't. That's the best I can come up with.
Okay, well, we're 4 weeks away from the next meeting.
Right. I mean,
Three, actually. Three, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's three.
3
it's
weeks.
really,
We're
it's really quick because
Yeah,
of this
yeah,
one's later,
because,
right?
yeah, we're 3 weeks away. So just keep everybody on schedule.
Keep everybody on schedule. Okay.
All right, and I will submit also for Joe to add to your packet. We just got the survey that had all the heights of the houses next door, so.
Oh, good.
You can
Good.
have that as well
Okay.
for next.
So the height is not changing.
No.
The height on the original, on
And the foundation.
54 will not change, that it will be lifted up, new foundation put in, and drop back down.
What's the face material on the foundation?
It is brick.
Brick.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Real
Yeah.
brick?
yep, yep.
And then that house is 36.89 from the center line of the road. And the new portion of our addition is about 34,
So
the
the,
highest point of.
the height of the foundation that we see now, we will see when it becomes brick. It won't change in height.
I think it's brick now, isn't it?
Okay.
It is.
It's brick
It's
now.
brick now,
But you-
but it's just not in good shape
And you can't see that really from the street because of the
because of the porch. You're not really gonna see the foundation because of the porch. The parts that you're gonna see, you'll see, will be brick.
Yeah.
Those were the things I wanted to know.
Okay, well, very good. Joe, do you want, they don't have to redo this whole application, so you want this turned back in?
Yes, that would be easier, just for how about 8 copies when we come back next time. If you guys, it's up to you guys are happy with it, I'm happy.
Well, either, we're coming,
Yeah, you want to hold on.
I'll just hold on to it.
okay, then you're each responsible for bringing it back.
Now and then.
Everybody's responsible for bringing it back.
Printing it offline.
We can make more.
No, you don't have to make more. Okay, we'll see you in,
Yeah, that's fine, I'll make copies, I'll make sure they have it. I appreciate it, Brent, thank you.
all right, thank you very much. Appreciate your patience. And next, we have presentation and possible action on H-17-22 on behalf of BB Healthcare for the exterior renovation of windows, doors, masonry, sign replacement, roof replacement, and painting for a contributing structure, Shaw Building. The property is located at 424 Savannah Road, Sussex County Tax Map 335-8.11-40.00 CFHC, 424 Savannah Road. And how are you?
Very well. How are you?
Good.
Thank you for having me here tonight. My name is Carl Creenan with ABHA Architects. We're the architect representing BB Hospital on the revitalization of the facade. There are also interior renovations that are planned separate from this project, but we're here tonight to speak about the facade rehabilitation as well. So I'd be happy to take any questions
Well,
regarding the application.
what?
Good.
I was just, if you wanted to give his presentation and explain what he was doing, if you,
Yeah. Yeah,
before you
I
had
think,
questions.
Okay.
yeah, before we have, yes. If
Sure,
you just
sure.
give it kind of an overview. I know a couple of us met, sort of a pre-meeting that was requested by BB. And so if you just want to kind of, what will the
Sure.
building look like when it's all done? Kind of a summary without getting too far into the weeds.
Sure. I think the intent of BB is to really refurbish it to its original luster as much as possible. There were some more recent additions that have become pretty established, but the simplicity of it, they'd like to maintain and really bring back to life. Specifically, starting with the masonry, it has a very unique sculpted block that was original block. So, however, it's become damaged in some areas, particularly with foundation failures and other water intrusion failures. So there's significant cracking. So the intent there is to repair the damage and replace sample or some of the blocks. And I do actually have a sample of what we're proposing, which was shown, I think, to some of the group when we toured there. It's patching it, but the intent is to patch it to make sure it matches nicely along with the repair. Just kind of following what was in the booklet, there are precast headers over most of the windows and sills. Those will be maintained. The roof is a mix of asphalt shingles and single-ply roof on the back that you don't see. But what the intent is to replace with a continuous PVC roofing, although you might see in the renderings, the part that faces the street, which is the main porch area and the wings, the intent there is to use it's a PVC roof, but there are PVC ribs that will give the feel of a standing seam roof. We've done it at other historic structures around the state, and it's held up very well. It gives a good, we feel, good, solid and durable finish with some authenticity, even though it is a PVC project.
And the color is?
Well, that's open for discussion, but we're proposing actually to use the patina green there.
Which was original?
It was not necessarily original. We have had a hard time finding anything that really shows or documents what the actual very original 1921 building was.
Okay.
The roof was never terracotta, was it?
I don't believe so. And again, from postcard views or photograph views, first off, it's hard to see in reality. And in reality, even walking down the street, it is it's pretty low slope. So so we thought it might be nice to actually give it a little pop, so it gives a little more presence. Is it historic? Not necessarily, but we think it would be an appropriate nod to what could have been there, but we don't actually think it was.
Actually, in that upper left photograph, it has a green sort of look through the trees.
It does.
Could have been
don't know
painted by
if we
somebody.
could go off that, but we kind of did, because that's exactly the exact impression that we had too. Was like, wow, could have been green. That might be nice to do that, but we don't want to give the impression that we believe it was a green patina standing seam roof. I do not think it was terracotta. Anything even looks close to that.
Or copper.
Perhaps, yeah. Perhaps it's
That
hard to-
turned green.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Perhaps. And again, I can come back to any specifics of that, but continuing on, the windows would be replaced on the whole Shaw building, all sides, with aluminum-clad wood Marvin-type window. For point of reference, it's similar. We have samples here, but it was also what was done at the renovation to the Lewis School down the street as well. Similar section, although we are doing an aluminum profile to try to replicate what exists now. Also a question there, and you'll see in some of the renderings, we're proposing that, I think the preference would be the green window trim, which actually was for a long period of time, the actual trim around the windows being green. It's a little bit of a darker green. But there are also images of it done with different colors over time. So, but we're proposing to actually use the green trim, which I think is in the rendering. That's a little bit further into the presentation. Also, the wood doors will be replaced with a 2¼ inch, again, aluminum-clad Marvin windows, full lights, with the divided grids to mimic what was original. The fire escape is an interesting point. It technically is still needed for egress from the building. There's the interior renovations that are happening do not include changing that. So the intent is that it would remain, although it will need to be removed temporarily because it's led to some damage to the block behind it. So the intent is to remove it, clean it, what's the word for it? But clean all the rust and steel off of it, and rust off of it, and then repaint it and reinstall it, because it's been there for so long that it almost feels historic as well. And there's actually been some discussion, even if in the future, if they replace it with a true fire stairway inside, that they might want to just keep it, because I think people identify it. I kind of always do, so.
Do you ever think of sanding down the layers of paint to see what the original color was?
On the stairwell?
No, we haven't. We could. We certainly could do that. Yeah.
I mean, it is historic preservation.
It is, yeah, yeah.
And then even on the siding, you can sand down the paint layers that have been put on over the years and find out what the original color was.
Yeah, we intend to do that when we get a little bit further into that on both of those. The original, I want to bring this up, the original block actually was unpainted, and it was more of a sandstone color. There are some good bit of documentation, but not for very long. We think certainly within the first 10 years, maybe even sooner, they painted it. And we would not propose to go back to that original, because
Thank you.
we feel there could be problems with that. And I think people certainly view that as being the white building, and I think it would really not be received well. And also, just from a maintenance point of view too, how do you maintain that? And the difference, any difference in the patching of the block would really, I think, jump out if you tried to do that. So we're proposing painting.
Were you able to identify whether those blocks were made here locally over here on Chestnut Street from the little factory that?
That's what has always been said.
Yeah, that's what, yeah.
I haven't
that's from the room,
confirmed that, but
Yeah.
that's the rumor.
Right.
We've heard that multiple times.
Yeah.
I think that's in the booklet, the BB booklet that we were referring to, that they had done for their 100th anniversary. But yes, that's the assumption that they were, with a high content of sand actually in it too. Fire escape. Metal railings will be replaced with more code-compliant railings at those first few steps. The actual porch area, which is a very low concrete porch with brick trim, that will be, it's also out of kilter, so that will be replaced in kind with similar detailing of brick as well. All of the wood trim work will be sanded, patched, repaired, but an aluminum gutter which with a profile that more matches the existing, will be replaced just at the very, very top leading edge of the upper cornices. Again, that will be aluminum, but sort of tied to the detailing. Similarly, with the fascia, the columns, all of the woodwork, again, stripped, sanded, painted, and repaired, patching. It's in relatively good shape. It's held up pretty well, but does need some attention. Replacement of the two lights on the front part, and then also there are recessed cans in the ceiling of the porch, and those will replace with LED lights. And lastly, the lettering. The lettering will be it's replaced with metal, pre-finished metal, to again match the color and the look of those, and reapplied. Same. The intent is replace in kind with same lettering, same name, reference to the name for the shawls. Is that any more detailed?
Anyone have any questions?
Yeah, I would go back to the fourth floor. I didn't understand. I did go by the building a couple days ago, but I didn't pay attention to the porch floor. Are you going to make it exactly what was there before?
Yes, we are. Yeah, it's out of level. It's like foundations failed a little bit, so it's uneven. So we're going to replace it in concrete with a brick border edge to it.
Sounds nice.
We're going to try to reuse the brick, but I don't know once they're popped out and how that will work. So we're going to try.
Regarding the window arrangement, I know you're going to use the Marvin windows, but when you look at the windows under the entryway there, under the cornice, they are 6/6, I believe. But then to the right are a smaller set of windows. And your plans here, you're showing 6/6 again, but the originals are 4/4. And I'm wondering whether if you
They have a lot of different existing types of windows.
But that whole set on that side of the built facing
Okay, I think
4th Street.
somewhere was
They're
listed.
4/4, and I think they're like a casement maybe, as opposed to a double hung. I'm not sure.
Not on the front, right? On the
Yeah, no, on the right-hand side.
right-hand side, yes, yes. So some of them will be.
Where the air conditioners
Will be
are.
a jalousie type window, looking window. I think there's in the details. Where is it? Page 602 on the fold-out
I'm looking at A003.
would be this one. It shows the pictures of the existing. Is that
Okay.
the one you were referring to?
Yeah, no, I'm referring to the ones on this side of the,
Okay, actually, on the front
yeah, on
side.
the front.
Do those jalousie windows match what's there, or what was originally there?
The profile, well, they won't be true jalousie windows, but they'll be
I think they have like 4 different kinds of windows,
yeah.
4 or 5, I forget the
Yeah.
number, different kinds of windows that are existing as the building grew,
I'll
evolved.
take a closer look
Yeah.
to make sure that those, because you're right, they were a little skinny
They
for
are-
6/6.
right, and it seems like
Those are-
6/6 are going to be
Yeah.
it's going to be kind of
Yeah,
tight.
I thought that they were
Yeah.
4/. I mean, I thought they were originally that, but we will
Yeah,
check that, and if
okay.
that's not the case, we will correct that.
It's an important building,
Yeah,
and
it's-
it's
yeah.
important to restore it historically.
Yeah.
We hope we're accomplishing that. We
No,
completely agree. It's very important
Yeah.
to BB, it's very important to the donor that is supporting this project, that this be done appropriately. These are actually preliminary documents to make sure that we got, good direction from this committee first, before we actually move into the formal documentation and before they actually can secure the funding. They wanted to make sure that we got this done before they would even support it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I mean, there's the intent to support, but not the official support until.
Not only is the building important to us all, the hospital is. I mean, it has been to me, so.
I think it's been to almost everybody.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So in your submission package, the one thing that confused me, and maybe it's all the Series 3 block, but you show all these other blocks that don't indicate everything is going to be a reproduction of a BB block,
Yes,
correct?
that is stock sizing information.
Okay.
Just say they have the ability to do that, but yes.
And they will make the cut face replication in any of those dimensions that you require for the project.
They will.
Yeah,
Yeah.
But the new block is only going in where you have to repair and replace.
right.
Yes, right.
Right.
Otherwise, it will be existing
Existing
block,
block,
where
yeah.
it
Gonna restore what's
hasn't
there.
cracked or
Yeah.
Yeah,
other
and so
issues.
also, some of that also is on the back of the building where we're infilling some windows
Yeah.
or they put in mechanical units through windows, so we're repairing them. So there's a lot of repair work, particularly on the back. So that's why there's addition. Now, we won't use all of those profiles, but that would just say that they have the ability to do that. But yes, there will not be any flush block. It will have the pattern to it.
So, the other question I have is, this Sika product that, what is you've used it on other projects?
Yeah, particularly the Bellevue Mansion.
Okay.
Which is in Wilmington,
Yep.
one of the state parks
Familiar
there,
with it.
event center. Yellow building, but it has that type of roof, and we did that
Did you bring
over
a
20 years ago.
sample? Did you bring a sample of
we
that?
have
Oh,
samples.
good. This is really interesting to see. We saw this. I think everybody'd be interested in seeing this if you wanted to pass it around.
Here's the block as well.
Block?
You'll be able to see that. I'll start here. So that shows how the attachment actually happens. And this is actually the color that we would be proposing. It's not
Attached.
here, there.
Yeah.
And it has a sheen to it enough that it kind of has a metallic look to it. In reality, it really,
This isn't, yeah, this isn't,
if you're on it, you know what it is, but if you're on the street, it really.
this isn't that back courtyard.
And
Hey, you want to pass one of those down?
Yeah, the color doesn't.
Just wondered what it represented.
Bellevue offers 20-some years, about 20.
The question we had asked when we saw this was whether you could crush the ridge, and whoever was with us, when
Stepped on it.
Michael, we stepped on it, and they said it doesn't crush, and then I think there was somebody else there that had talked to the rep and said, no, this has been used many locations, and it doesn't crush.
Doesn't.
Which means it might even be considered an alternate for metal roofing.
Right?
Doubt anybody read
Does look like, it's like a
It
patina.
is pricey. It is.
much more-
Not copper, but it's.
Much more expensive than the metal roofing?
Oh, no, it's actually not. It's more reasonable, but we're putting PVC on that entire roof area too, a lot of it that you won't see. So it's sort of a continuation of that too.
Did anyone want to see the BB block material?
That's it.
You see it?
No,